Story 1. The Woman AT Mile Marker 204. There's a rule among long-haul truckers. A rule no one writes down, but everyone eventually learns. If you see someone standing on an empty highway at 3:17 am, don't stop. Not because they might rob you. Not because they might be dangerous. But because sometimes they're not alive at all. And the worst part, some truckers who did stop were never seen again. For truckers, the highway isn't just a job. It's isolation. It's darkness. It's endless miles of silence broken only by engine noise and radio static. You drive through abandoned towns, forests with no signal, deserts where no one can hear you scream. And sometimes, you see things you can't explain. Tonight, we're diving into 3 disturbing true trucker horror stories. Stories shared in trucking forums, police records, and first-hand accounts. No exaggeration. No fiction. Just the kind of stories truckers whisper about when the engine is off and the night feels too quiet. In 2017, a trucker named Daniel Reeves was driving through a long stretch of highway in the Midwest United States. It was one of those roads that felt endless. No towns, no lights, just trees on both sides and a fading radio signal. Time 3:12 a.m. Daniel had been driving for nearly 9 hours. He was tired, but alert enough to finish the route. That's when he saw her. Up ahead, near a reflective mile marker sign. A woman, standing perfectly still, on the side of the road. At first, Daniel thought it was strange, but not impossible. Maybe a stranded driver. Maybe someone who needed help. But as he got closer, something felt wrong. She wasn't waving. She wasn't moving. She was just watching the road. Daniel slowed down. Every instinct told him to keep driving. But something else, something human told him. What if she needs help? So he pulled over. As he stepped out of the truck, the night felt off. No wind. No sound. Not even insects. He called out, "Hey, you okay?" The woman slowly turned her head. Her face was pale, unnaturally pale. Her eyes looked empty. And then she said something that made his blood freeze. "You shouldn't have stopped." Daniel froze. "Do you need help?" he asked again. The woman tilted her head slightly. Then she pointed behind him. Daniel turned instinctively and saw nothing. But when he turned back, she was gone. Daniel jumped back into his truck, heart racing. He drove off immediately. But a few seconds later, his radio crackled to life. Even though it had been dead for miles, a distorted voice came through. Mile marker 204. You stopped. Then silence. Telephone receiver, the police report. Shaken, Daniel reported the incident at the next stop. That's when things got worse. The officer went quiet when Daniel mentioned the location. Because at mile marker 204, there had been a fatal accident years earlier. A woman, stranded on the road, hit by a truck that didn't stop. Brain the disturbing detail. Before Daniel left, the officer asked him one question. Did she say anything to you? Daniel hesitated, then replied, Yeah, she said I shouldn't have stopped. The officer sighed and said, That's what she always says. Some truckers believe the road holds memories. Not just events, but emotions, fear, regret, death, and sometimes those memories don't stay buried. Most truckers agree on one thing. Never pick up hitchhikers. Not because of crime. Not because of danger. but because sometimes they know things they shouldn't. Things about you, your past, and your future. Articulated Lori Story 2, The Last Passenger. In late 2019, a long-haul trucker named Marcus Hale was driving through a remote desert highway in Nevada. The road stretched endlessly into darkness. No streetlights, no cars, no radio signal, just dry wind, and miles of nothing. Time 2:46 a.m. Marcus had one rule: never stop for anyone out here. But that night, he broke it. Up ahead, illuminated briefly by his headlights, a man stood on the shoulder of the road. No bag, no car, no movement, just standing there waiting. Marcus slowed slightly, then told himself, "No, keep driving." But as he passed, the man turned his head and smiled. Not a normal smile, a knowing one. Marcus drove another mile, then two, but something kept bothering him. Not guilt, not concern, recognition. He felt like he'd seen that man before, even though he knew that was impossible. So, against his better judgment, he slowed down, stopped, and reversed. The man was still there. Same position, same smile. Marcus rolled down the window. "You need a ride?" The man nodded once, got in, sat quietly. The moment the door shut, Marcus felt it. The temperature dropped. Not slightly, drastically, like the heater had died. But the dashboard said everything was normal. Marcus glanced at the passenger. He was staring straight ahead, unblinking. After a few minutes of silence, the man spoke, softly. "You weren't supposed to come back." Marcus frowned. "What?" The man turned slowly, looked directly at him, and said, "You always keep driving." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean always?" No answer. Just silence again. The man leaned back, closed his eyes. A few minutes later, the man spoke again, without opening his eyes. "You're heading to Reno." Marcus stiffened. "How do you know that?" No response. Then, "You'll stop at the gas station on exit 12. Marcus gripped the wheel tighter. "Who are you?" Still no answer. Then came the sentence Marcus would never forget. The man opened his eyes, looked directly at him, and said, "That's where you die." Marcus slammed the brakes. The truck screeched to a stop. "Get out." No response. "Get out." He turned to look. The passenger seat was empty. Door still closed. Seatbelt untouched. No sound. No movement. Nothing. Then, the radio crackled to life. Loud, violent static. Then a voice. "Exit 12. Fatal collision." Marcus stared at the dashboard. The radio wasn't even turned on. Marcus had two options: keep driving and ignore everything. Stop before exit 12. For the first time in his career, he chose fear. He pulled over miles before the exit, turned off the engine, and waited until sunrise. At dawn, Marcus drove again. Carefully, slowly. When he reached exit 12, the road was blocked. Police vehicles, ambulance, flashing lights. He stopped and asked an officer what happened. The officer replied, "Truck accident happened around 3 a.m. Marcus's blood ran cold. "Bad." The officer nodded. Driver didn't make it. Marcus hesitated, then asked, "What caused it?" The officer paused, then said, "Looks like he swerved suddenly, like he saw something in the road." Marcus never picked up another hitchhiker again. But what haunted him wasn't just the experience. It was the realization. That man knew his route, knew his habits, knew his fate, and the most terrifying possibility, that wasn't a stranger. That was what was supposed to happen to him. Some roads don't just take you places. They show you things. Things that haven't happened yet. Things that are waiting for you. Studio 3, Disturbing True Trucker Horror Stories. Part 3, Something Inside the Trailer. Fire hook cold open. Every trucker checks their trailer before a long haul. Locks, cargo, seals. Because once you're on the road, there's no turning back. And if you start hearing sounds from inside, scratching, banging, knocking, you better hope it's just loose cargo. Because one trucker learned the hard way. Sometimes it is. Articulated Lorry Story 3, the KNOCKING load. New Moon the route. In 2021, a truck driver named Luis Ortega was assigned a late-night delivery route across rural Texas. Pickup location, an empty warehouse outside San Antonio. Drop-off, a distribution center nearly 6 hours away. Simple job. No complications. Or at least, that's what it was supposed to be. Package the pickup. Luis arrived at the warehouse just before midnight. The place felt abandoned. No workers. No forklifts. No noise. Just one man waiting near the loading dock. The man didn't introduce himself. Didn't smile. Just handed Luis the paperwork and said, "Don't open the trailer." Luis frowned. "Why?" The man paused, then replied, "It's sealed for a reason." Warning first red flag. That wasn't normal. Truckers open trailers all the time, for inspection, safety, or emergencies. Luis almost questioned it further. But the job paid well. So he let it go. The trailer was loaded. Doors shut. Seal placed. And just like that, he was on the road. Milky Way the first hour. The first hour was quiet. Just engine noise and darkness stretching ahead. Luis turned on the radio. Static. He switched stations. Nothing. No signal. Speaker high volume the first sound. Then, a noise. Soft. Faint. From behind. Knock. Luis froze. He turned the radio off. Listened carefully. Silence. He shook his head. Probably cargo shifting. Speaker high volume the second time. 10 minutes later. Knock and knock. Clearer this time. Deliberate. Not random. Not loose boxes. This sounded like something hitting from the inside. The realization. Luis's grip tightened on the wheel. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." The trailer was sealed. Locked from the outside. There was no one inside. There couldn't be. Police car light the stop. He pulled over. Heart pounding. Stepped out. The night was completely silent. He walked slowly toward the trailer doors. The metal looked normal. Untouched. But as he got closer, red circle bang. A loud air from inside. Luis jumped back. His breath caught in his throat. Then, scratching. Slow. Dragging. Like something was moving. Against the walls, brain fight or flight. Every instinct screamed, run, but curiosity and disbelief kept him there. He stepped closer again, placed his hand on the metal door. It was cold, ice cold, speaking the voice. Then he heard it. Not a knock, not scratching. A voice, muffled, weak, from inside. Help me. Lewis stumbled backward. No, no. Unlocked, breaking the rule. He remembered the warning. Don't open the trailer. But now, there was no way he could ignore this. If someone was trapped inside, they could die. Hands shaking, he broke the seal, unlocked the doors, and slowly pulled one open. Black circle inside the trailer. Darkness. Complete. No cargo. No boxes. Nothing. The trailer was empty. Exclamation marked the impossible. Lewis stepped inside, shined his flashlight. Nothing. No person. No sign of life. Just cold air. And silence. Door the moment it changed. Then, behind him, bang. The trailer door slammed shut. Hole trapped. Lewis spun around, ran to the doors, pulled, locked. From the outside, fearful face not alone. Then, from behind him, footsteps, slow, heavy, dragging. Lewis turned. His flashlight shook in his hand. The beam landed on nothing, but the footsteps didn't stop. They were getting closer, speaking right behind him. Then the voice again. Clearer now. Closer. Right behind his ear. You opened it. The escape. Lewis screamed. Kicked the door repeatedly. Help, help. Then suddenly, the doors swung open. Crescent moon outside again. Lewis stumbled out onto the road. Gasping. Sweating. Terrified. He didn't look back. He didn't check again. He just got in the truck and drove. Police car, the aftermath. Lewis reported everything at the next station. Police inspected the trailer. No damage. No sign of entry. No person. Nothing. Brain the warehouse truth. When authorities checked the pickup location, the warehouse was empty. Abandoned. Closed for years. No records of operation. No employees. No shipment scheduled. Candle the final detail. Lewis never drove that route again. But what haunted him most was the realization. He didn't imagine the voice. He didn't imagine the knocking. Because before he opened the trailer, something inside was trying to get out. Studio 3, Disturbing True Trucker Horror Stories. Part 4, The Car That Never Left. Fire hook cold open. Truckers rely on their mirrors. Side mirrors. Rearview mirrors. Because on the road, what's behind you matters. But one driver learned something terrifying. If the same car stays behind you, for miles, for hours, without ever passing, you're not being followed. You're being waited on. Articulated Laurie Story 4, The Follower. Waxing Crescent Moon, the beginning. In 2018, a veteran truck driver named Aaron Cole was driving a night route through the back highways of Arkansas. Aaron had over 15 years of experience. He wasn't easily shaken. He'd driven through storms, breakdowns, even armed robbery attempts. But nothing prepared him for this. Motorway the first notice. Time 1:08 a.m. Aaron checked his mirrors like he always did. That's when he saw it. A pair of headlights behind him. Not unusual. Another vehicle on the road. He didn't think much of it. Hourglass not done 30 minutes later. The road curved. Split. Merged again. Aaron changed lanes twice. Took an alternate route. The headlights were still there. Same distance. Same position. Brain the unease begins. Aaron frowned. That's weird. Most cars pass eventually. Or turn off. Or change speed. But this one did nothing. Just stayed there. Vertical traffic light the test. Aaron slowed down slightly. The car slowed too. He sped up. The car matched him. No horn. No attempt to pass. Just following. The first fear. Aaron picked up his radio. Dead. No signal. Of course. He checked the time. 2:03 a.m. Over an hour now. Same car. Same headlights. Eye trying to see the driver. Aaron adjusted his side mirror. Tried to catch a glimpse. But the lights were too bright. Blinding. Almost intentional. Warning the turn. Up ahead. A narrow road cut through dense forest. Aaron made a sudden decision. He turned sharply. No signal. No warning. Just to lose the car. Automobile still there. 3 seconds later. Headlights turned the corner behind him. Still following. Fearful face now it's wrong. Aaron's heart started pounding. This wasn't coincidence anymore. This was deliberate. Stop sign the stop. Finally Aaron snapped. He hit the brakes hard. The truck screeched slightly. He pulled over. Stepped out. Milky Way face to face. The car stopped behind him. Engine still running. Lights still on. Aaron walked toward it slowly. Angry now. Hey, what's your problem? No response. Person walking approaching the car. Step by step. He got closer. The headlights dimmed slightly. And for the first time, he could see inside. The driver. Someone was sitting there. Hands on the wheel. Head tilted slightly down. Still. Too still. Speaking the moment. Aaron stepped closer. Why are you following me? No answer. He moved to the side of the window. And that's when the driver lifted their head. Exclamation mark impossible face. Aaron staggered backward. Because the face staring at him was his own. Whole frozen in fear. Same eyes. Same beard. Same expression. But pale. Lifeless. Like a corpse version of himself. Speaking the voice. The driver's lips moved. But the sound didn't come from the car. It came from behind Aaron. From the darkness. Whispering. You don't stop. Police car light panic. Aaron spun around. Nothing there. When he turned back, crossmark the car was gone. No headlights. No engine. No sound. Just empty road. Person running back to the truck. Aaron ran. Jumped into his cab. Locked the doors. Hands shaking violently. The radio comes alive. Then, the radio turned on by itself. A calm voice spoke. Single vehicle accident reported. Driver found at scene. No survivors. Brain the final horror. Aaron listened in silence. Then the voice said something that made his blood freeze. Vehicle matched description of a freight truck. License plate confirmed. It was his plate. His truck. Candle what it meant. Aaron quit trucking 3 weeks later. He never told many people. But one thing stayed with him. That wasn't someone following him. That was what was waiting for him. Kevin Mercer had been driving for nearly 11 hours straight when the road began to feel endless. The highway stretched through the dark Oeste of New Mexico, surrounded by nothing but dry land and silence. No headlights passed him, no radio signal reached him, and no signs of civilization appeared for miles. His eyelids felt heavy, his grip on the steering wheel looser than usual. He checked his GPS again, hopping for relief, but the next marked stop was still 47 miles away. That was too far, he needed to rest. That's when he saw it. At first, it was just a faint glow in the distance, a warm yellow light flickering slightly against the darkness. Kevin leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. As he got closer, the shape became clearer. A small roadside diner stood just off the highway, its sign dim but readable, its windows glowing like a safe haven in the middle of nowhere. But something about it didn't make sense. He hadn't seen it on the map. He was sure of that. Still, exhaustion has a way of overriding doubt. Without thinking too much, he slowed down and pulled into the gravel lot. The moment he stepped inside, a small bell above the door rang, echoing softly through the room. The diner looked old but normal, cracked leather booths, a long counter with spinning stools, dim yellow lights hanging overhead. There were people inside, maybe 6 in total, scattered across the room. But what struck Kevin immediately wasn't how they looked, it was what they weren't doing. No one was eating. No one was talking. No one was moving. The entire place was wrapped in a heavy, unnatural silence. And then he realized something worse. They were all staring at him. Not casually, not out of curiosity, but intensely, like he didn't belong there, like he had interrupted something. Kevin tried to ignore it and walked to the counter, sitting down slowly. Before he could even settle properly, a waitress appeared beside him. He hadn't heard her approach. No footsteps, no sound, she just appeared. Her face was expressionless, her posture stiff. "What can I get you?" she asked in a flat, almost mechanical tone. "Just coffee," Kevin replied, his voice slightly dry. She nodded once and walked away. Within seconds, far too quickly, she returned with a cup and placed it in front of him. Kevin frowned slightly. That was impossible. Coffee doesn't get made that fast. He picked up the cup. It was cold. A subtle chill ran down his spine. He slowly looked around again. The same people, the same positions, still staring, still silent. It felt like time wasn't moving inside the diner, like everything was frozen except him. That's when he noticed the man in the far booth. The man hadn't blinked once. He sat alone, leaning slightly forward, eyes locked directly onto Kevin. There was something deeply wrong about him, not his appearance but his stillness. Kevin felt an urge to leave immediately. This place wasn't right. He stood up. As soon as he did, the man spoke. "You shouldn't be here." The voice was calm, low, and completely out of place in the silence. Kevin turned toward him. "What?" The man blinked slowly for the first time, then said, "They don't like when people leave." A cold weight dropped into Kevin's chest. He turned toward the door, but the waitress was already standing there, blocking it. She was smiling now. But the smile didn't look human. It was stretched too wide, too forced, like it didn't belong on her face. "Stay a while," she said softly. "Rest, you look tired." Kevin shook his head immediately. "No, I'm good." He took a step forward. She didn't move. Then everything changed. The lights flickered once, twice, and the temperature inside the diner dropped sharply. Kevin could see his breath. Behind him, chairs began to scrape slowly against the floor. He turned. Every person in the diner was standing. Moving. But not normally. Their movements were stiff, jerky, like puppets being pulled by invisible strings. One by one, they turned toward him. Their eyes locked onto him with something far darker than curiosity. Kevin's heart slammed against his chest. He ran. He pushed past the waitress, but as he did, her hand shot out and grabbed his arm. Her grip was unnaturally strong and freezing cold. She leaned in close, her breath brushing against his ear. "You came in," she whispered. "That means you stay." Panic surged through him. Kevin yanked his arm free with all his strength and stumbled out the door. He didn't look back. He didn't stop. He jumped into his truck, slammed the door shut, and drove. Faster than he should have. Minutes passed before he dared to check his mirror. The diner was gone. No lights. No building. Nothing. Just empty land and darkness, as if it had never existed at all. The next morning, Kevin tried to make sense of what happened. He checked maps again, nothing. He asked other drivers. No one had ever heard of a diner in that area. No records, no mention. But one older trucker, after listening quietly, finally said something that made Kevin's blood run cold. "There used to be a place out there, a long time ago." Kevin leaned forward. "What happened to it?" The man stared at him for a moment, then said, "It burned down." Kevin swallowed. "Anyone survive?" The old driver shook his head slowly. "Not a single one. Kevin never took that route again. But sometimes, late at night, when the road is too quiet, he swears he can still see that glow in the distance. Waiting." Marcus Duane had always trusted one thing on the road more than anything else: his CB radio. Out there, where highways stretch endlessly through darkness and isolation, the radio is more than just noise. It's connection. It's safety. It's proof that you're not completely alone. That night, however, Marcus would learn that sometimes it's better to be alone. He was driving through a remote stretch of highway somewhere between Oklahoma and Texas, a route he'd taken dozens of times before. The night was unusually still. No wind, no passing cars, not even the usual distant glow of other trucks miles ahead. Just darkness swallowing everything beyond his headlights. The time on the dashboard read 3:11 a.m. Marcus adjusted in his seat and reached for the radio, turning the dial out of habit. Static filled the cab, loud and grainy, like always in dead zones like this. He tapped the side of the unit a couple of times, trying to clear it. Then the static stopped. Not gradually, not fading. Just cut. And for a brief second, there was absolute silence. Then a voice came through. "Marcus, don't go any further." His entire body stiffened. The voice was clear, too clear for a dead signal zone, but that wasn't what froze him. It was the voice itself. It sounded exactly like him. Same tone, same cadence, same slight rasp at the end of each sentence. Marcus forced a nervous laugh. "All right, real funny, who is this?" No response. Just silence again. He glanced at the radio, then back at the road. His fingers tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Cut it out," he said more firmly now. "Who's messing with me?" The radio crackled again. "Turn around." Marcus's stomach dropped. That wasn't imitation anymore. That was precise, identical. "Yeah, not happening," he muttered, trying to shake it off. "Probably some idiot with a voice modulator." He reached forward and turned the radio off completely. The display went dark. The cab fell silent again, except for the low hum of the engine and the tires rolling against asphalt. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Then, the radio turned back on by itself. Static burst through, louder than before, almost painful. And then the voice returned. "You didn't listen." Marcus slammed his hand against the radio. "Stop." Silence. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then more softly this time. "You're going to see it." Marcus's breathing became uneven. "See what?" The answer came immediately. Us. A chill spread through his chest. Enough, Marcus said under his breath. I'm done with this. He leaned forward and pulled the radio's power cable out completely. The device went dead in his hands. No power, no signal. Nothing. Marcus exhaled slowly, trying to steady himself. That's the end of that. But the relief didn't last long. Because a few seconds later, the voice came back. Not from the radio. From the cab itself. You can't turn it off. Marcus froze. The sound was behind him. He turned slowly toward the sleeper area. Dark. Empty. Nothing there. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. This isn't real, he whispered to himself. You're tired, that's all. Then his headlights flickered. Just once. Briefly. But long enough. Because in that split second of darkness, he saw something on the road ahead. Shapes. Multiple shapes. Standing across the highway. Then the lights stabilized again. The road was empty. Marcus gripped the wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white. Nope, I'm not doing this. He pressed harder on the gas. The truck surged forward. Then the voice came again. Calm, controlled. Slow down. Marcus shook his head violently. Shut up, just shut up. If you keep going, you'll hit them. There's nothing there. They're waiting. Marcus squeezed his eyes shut for half a second, then opened them again, focusing on the road. Empty. Completely empty. Then, the lights flickered again. Longer this time. And in that darkness, he saw them clearly. Figures. At least 5 of them. Standing side by side across the road. Not moving. Not reacting. Just waiting. The lights came back. Gone. The road was clear again. Marcus's breathing turned into near panic. This isn't real. This isn't real. They weren't there before, the voice said, but they are now. Marcus shook his head, tears forming in his eyes from stress and fear. Why are you doing this? A pause. Then the voice answered. Because you didn't listen the first time. Marcus's mind raced. First time, what are you talking about? Silence. Then, you already drove this road. A cold, sinking feeling spread through him. No, Marcus whispered. No, I didn't. Yes, the voice said quietly, and you didn't stop. Marcus's grip weakened slightly. Stop for what? The answer came in a whisper that barely sounded human anymore. For us. Suddenly, the headlights flickered again. But this time, they didn't come back immediately. And in that extended darkness, Marcus saw everything. The figures weren't just standing. They were damaged, broken, twisted, like victims of a violent crash. Some were bent at impossible angles. Some were missing parts. And all of them were facing him. When the lights came back, Marcus screamed, because they were no longer far away. They were right in front of his truck. He slammed the brakes. The tires screamed against the road. The truck jolted violently. Then, silence. Complete silence. Marcus sat there, shaking uncontrollably. The road ahead was empty again. Nothing there. No bodies. No figures. Nothing. The radio, still unplugged, crackled one last time. And the voice whispered, "You stopped this time." Marcus never finished that route. He left trucking within a month. But what stayed with him forever wasn't just what he saw. It was what the voice said. Because deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, somehow, He really hadn't stopped the first time. Rahim Uddin had been driving night routes for nearly 8 years, and in that time he had learned how to deal with almost anything the road could throw at him: fatigue, isolation, even fear. But there was one thing he never ignored: unexplained weight in the truck. Because in trucking, weight is everything. You feel it in acceleration, in braking, in every turn, and if something changes suddenly, it means something is wrong. That night, Rahim was driving along a quiet highway outside Dhaka, transporting an empty container back to a depot. No cargo, no passengers, just him, the truck, and a long stretch of road that felt unusually deserted even for that hour. The time was 2:58 a.m. The road ahead was clear, the engine steady. Everything felt normal. Until it didn't. At first it was subtle. The truck felt heavier. Rahim frowned slightly, pressing the accelerator a bit more. The response was slower than it should have been. He glanced at the dashboard, checking for any warning signs. Nothing. Strange, he muttered. He adjusted his posture and kept driving. Maybe it was the road incline, maybe just his imagination. But then came the second sign. A soft creak. From behind him. Not from the trailer. From inside the cab. Rahim's hands tightened on the wheel. He slowly looked at the rearview mirror. The backseat was dark. Empty. He exhaled quietly, just the suspension. But deep down he knew. That sound didn't come from metal. It sounded like weight shifting. Like someone adjusting their position. Rahim swallowed hard and focused on the road. Don't think about it, just drive. The truck continued forward, but the heaviness increased. It wasn't dramatic, but it was noticeable enough now that he couldn't ignore it. It felt like an extra person was inside. Sitting. Still. Watching. Rahim's breathing became shallow. He didn't want to look again. But he had to. Slowly, carefully. He raised his eyes to the mirror. At first, nothing. Just darkness. Then, a shape. Faint. Barely visible. Sitting in the backseat. Rahim's heart slammed in his chest. No. He blinked rapidly. The shape didn't disappear. It became clearer. A figure. Leaning forward slightly. Head tilted. Looking directly at him through the mirror. Rahim jerked his eyes back to the road. This isn't real, he whispered. This is not real. The truck suddenly felt even heavier. As if whatever was behind him had leaned closer. Then he heard it. Breathing. Not his own. Slow. Deliberate. Right behind him. Rahim's entire body went cold. He didn't dare turn around. Instead he spoke, his voice trembling. Who's there? Silence. Then, a whisper. So close it felt like lips were brushing against his ear. You picked me up. Rahim's mind raced. No, I didn't stop, I didn't. You always stop. His grip on the steering wheel weakened. What do you want? No answer. Just that breathing again. Closer now. Then the truck dipped slightly, like more weight had been added suddenly. Rahim gasped. That was impossible. There was no one else. There couldn't be. Then, the mirror changed. He glanced at it again. And froze. The figure was no longer sitting. It was closer. Leaning between the seats now. Its face partially visible. Dark. Distorted. But the eyes. Locked onto his. Unblinking. Rahim let out a broken breath. Please just go. The thing smiled. Slowly. Unnaturally wide. And said, Not until we reach where you left me. A tear rolled down Rahim's cheek. I didn't leave anyone. The thing's head tilted. Then softly, you don't remember. Rahim's mind started racing uncontrollably. Fragments, flashes, a road, rain, a shadow in front of the truck, a sudden break. Or did he not break? His chest tightened. No, no, no. The breathing grew louder, heavier. Then, a hand appeared on his shoulder. Ice cold. Rahim screamed. The truck swerved slightly before he corrected it. Stop, stop it. The voice whispered again. You didn't stop for me. Rahim's vision blurred with panic. I didn't see you. A pause. Then, you saw. The pressure on his shoulder increased. Then another weight shifted, as if something else had moved in the backseat. Rahim's eyes shot to the mirror again. Now there were two figures, both staring, both smiling. The truck felt unbearably heavy now, like it was carrying far more than it should. Rahim couldn't take it anymore. He slammed the brakes. The truck screeched to a halt in the middle of the empty road. Silence. No engine hum. No wind. Nothing. Rahim sat there, shaking violently. Then slowly, he turned his head, just a little, toward the backseat. Empty. Nothing there. No figures. No shapes. No sound. The weight. Gone. Rahim burst into shaky breaths, almost laughing in relief. It's over, it's over. Then he looked down, at his shoulder, where the hand had touched him. 5 dark marks, like bruises, finger-shaped, ice-cold. Rahim never drove at night again. But what haunted him most wasn't what he saw. It was what he started to remember. Because sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, he sees flashes of that road, that moment, and the figure standing in front of his truck, not moving, just waiting. The road that never ends final. There's a belief among long-haul truckers that some roads don't exist on any map, not because they're hidden, but because they aren't meant to be found. They appear when you're too tired, too far gone, or too deep into the night to question what's real anymore. And if you ever find yourself on one, the worst thing you can do is keep driving. Imran Hassan had been on the road for over 14 hours when it happened. He was heading back toward Dhaka after a delayed delivery, exhausted but determined to finish the trip without stopping. The highway ahead was familiar, one he had driven countless times. Every turn, every sign, every checkpoint, he knew them all. That's why, when something changed, he noticed immediately. The first sign was subtle. A turn that shouldn't have been there. Imran frowned as he approached it. He didn't remember this road splitting here. He slowed slightly, glancing at his GPS. The screen flickered for a moment, then went blank before returning. But now the route looked wrong. The map showed a straight line, but the road clearly curved off to the right. Maybe an update, he muttered, more to calm himself than out of belief. Without thinking too much, he followed the curve. At first, everything seemed normal. The road stretched ahead, bordered by darkness and the occasional silhouette of trees. But after a few minutes, a strange feeling crept in, a quiet, persistent sense that something wasn't right. Then he passed a sign. White reflective. Faded. He didn't catch the full text, but one word stood out clearly. Return. Imran's grip tightened on the wheel. What does that even mean? He kept driving. 5 minutes later, he saw the same sign again. Same position. Same faded letters. Return. A cold unease settled into his chest. That's not possible. He checked his mirrors instinctively, as if expecting to see something behind him. Nothing. Just empty road. Then the radio crackled. Soft at first, then louder. Imran reached for it, but before he could touch anything, a voice came through. Low. Distorted. You missed it. Imran froze. Missed what? No response. Just static again. He swallowed hard and looked back at the road. That's when he realized the surroundings hadn't changed at all. Same trees, same shadows, same stretch of asphalt. It was like he hadn't moved. His breathing became shallow. No, I've been driving. He pressed harder on the accelerator. The engine roared slightly, but the road ahead didn't seem to get any closer. Then, up ahead, headlights, another vehicle. Relief washed over him instantly. Finally, someone else. The car was parked on the side of the road, engine running, lights on. Imran slowed down as he approached, his heart racing with a strange mix of fear and hope. As he got closer, he noticed something odd. The car looked familiar. Too familiar. Same color. Same shape. Same small dent near the rear bumper. Imran's breath caught in his throat. It was his truck. Or something identical to it. Parked. Empty. Waiting. He slowed almost to a stop. The radio came alive again. You stopped here. Imran's voice trembled. What are you talking about? The voice replied. This is where you got out. A chill ran down his spine. He looked at the parked truck again. The driver's door was slightly open. Dark inside. Inviting. Or warning. I never stopped, Imran whispered. The radio crackled softly. Then, you just don't remember yet. His heart pounded violently now. I'm leaving. He pressed the gas. The truck surged forward and past the parked vehicle. But as he looked in the mirror, it was gone. No truck. No lights. Nothing. Just empty road again. Imran's breathing became erratic. This isn't real, I'm dreaming. But deep down, he knew he was. Then the road ahead changed. The darkness thickened. Not like night. Like something solid. The headlights barely cut through it. And in that darkness, he saw shapes. Standing. Scattered along the road. Not moving. Not reacting. Just watching. The truck slowed on its own. Imran's foot was still on the accelerator. But the speed dropped. Move, he whispered desperately. Come on. The figures didn't move. They just stood there. Then, one by one, they turned. All at once. Facing him. And that's when he saw their faces. Broken. Damaged. Empty. Like people caught in the exact moment of impact. His chest tightened painfully. I didn't. The radio cut him off. You didn't stop. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't see them. A long pause. Then the voice colder now. You saw. The truck came to a complete stop. The engine shut off on its own. Silence swallowed everything. Imran sat there, unable to move. The figures began to walk. Slowly. Toward him. Each step unnatural. Heavy. Final. His hands trembled as he reached for the door handle. I have to get out. The radio whispered one last time. That's what you did before. Imran froze. No. But something inside him, a memory, was forcing its way back. That same road, that same darkness, that same moment where he stepped out of the truck and never came back. The figures reached the truck, surrounding it, their hands pressed against the windows, leaving dark marks. Cold, still, waiting. Imran closed his eyes, tears falling silently. I remember when he opened them again. The road was empty. The engine was running. The truck was moving. Everything was normal, like nothing had happened. But Imran didn't feel relief. Because now, he understood. Some roads don't trap you physically. They trap you in moments, in mistakes, in things you can't undo. And no matter how far you drive, you never really leave. Coffin final. If you ever find yourself on a road that feels unfamiliar, even if it looks the same, even if your GPS says you're fine, don't ignore it. Because the most dangerous roads are the ones you've already driven.